What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to give you and go over my top 5 free agent destinations for a frontline shortstop, that of course being Javier Báez. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so coming in at number 5 on my list, this may be like a flyer team here. A team not a lot of people may think of to be a legitimate destination for a guy like Javier Báez. But after I explain to you my points, I think you'll be with me on this. So, number 5, I got the Seattle Mariners. Yeah, I think they could be legitimate suitors for Javier Báez's services. Now, here's the first reason. I think that since the Mariners came oh so close to a postseason appearance this past season, you know, their front office, their ownership, they were able to see how excited the fan base in Seattle was during their little run. Thus, I think that kind of gives ownership, the front office, some motivation to go out there and make at least one big splash in the free agent market to excite, you know, the fans and keep them excited for the upcoming season. Now, the second reason I say Seattle would be a good place for Báez is because, as you know, the Mariners have not had a star player in quite a while. Now, some may say that Kyle Seager was that star player, but if we're being honest with ourselves, Kyle Seager was never on the level of a Javier Báez or even his brother, Corey Seager. So I think Báez's stardom would be welcomed with open arms when it comes to the fan base of the Mariners. I think they would love it up there in the Pacific Northwest. Now, also, you know, Seager is gone now because the Mariners, well, they declined his club option, so he's gone. He's off the books. So, in my mind, this should open some cap space up, you know, for the Mariners to kind of, you know, spend this offseason a little bit here. And also, their current shortstop situation with J.P. Crawford, it's not very good. I mean, he's not a great offensive player, being Crawford, and has not been through his first 5 seasons in the big leagues. Now, let's just compare Crawford and Báez to each other, and I'm just going over the first 5 seasons of both guys' careers here. So Crawford, the first 5, and his only 5, he has hit 21 home runs. He has 142 RBIs and 295 strikeouts, with a .250 batting average between the Phillies and the Mariners the first 5 seasons. Now you jump over to Báez through his first 5, and again, he's played more collectively than J.P. Crawford, but again, I'm being fair to Crawford in just looking at Báez's first 5 and comparing them side by side. Báez, he's hit 81 home runs, driven in 269 RBIs. Now, he has 538 strikeouts, but that's expected with Báez's approach. But here's the thing, even with those 538 Ks, he still has a higher batting average than Crawford at .267 through the first 5 seasons. Crawford has been below average, I'd say, offensively through his first 5, and Báez, through his first 5, has been great. Everything's there. I could care less about the strikeout total. The average is better than Crawford. The home runs are better than Crawford. The runs batted in is better than Crawford. So, to me, I think, in a way, it's kind of a no-brainer for a team like the Mariners to go out, take a big cut, so to speak, at getting Javier Báez and bringing him to the Emerald City. Alright, coming in at number 4 on the list for the most likely team I believe Javier Báez could sign with this offseason, well, it's the team I'm wearing right on top of the old noggin. It's the Tigers. Now, bear with me here. I view Báez as, quote-unquote, the last resort for Detroit's options when it comes to trying to acquire a top-of-the-line free agent shortstop. The reason why I say this is because I honestly do not think his style of play would work out well if he has to play half of his games at Comerica Park in Detroit. You know, I just think, you know, Báez's violent swing will eventually harm himself and the team more than it will help himself and the team, if that makes sense. Because Comerica Park, it's very, very big, very spacious. I mean, we have one of the deepest center fields, I think the deepest center field in all of Major League Baseball. It's 420 feet away from home plate, and then we have very, very large gaps in both right center and left center. And frankly, I just think Báez could lose his confidence if he plays a majority of his games at Comerica Park with the spacious outfield, with the fences being very, very far away. Báez has a classic uppercut swing, and I think if he gets under the ball too much, he's not going to be able to hit it out and hit it into a basket like he did in Chicago for many years. There's going to be no win factor like there was in Chicago. Like I said, the basket's not going to be in play. And I just think, those balls that he might hit that he would have thought gone out and probably would have gone out in Wrigley Field, it's going to land in the opposing outfielder's mitt. That's what's going to happen, and I think this could deteriorate his confidence very quickly if he keeps his approach of this all-or-nothing type of swing and this massive uppercut, because I do not think this uppercut is going to play at Comerica Park. I just don't. I just see this spelling disaster for Javier Báez as a Detroit Tiger. Now, although my first 2 points seemed like reasons why the Tigers should not sign Báez, don't get me wrong. The Tigers, they need a shortstop. They need a good defensive shortstop. They need a guy who can handle the bat. And I would take Báez 100%. He has a hell of a mitt. It can play anywhere. It's really, the bat that I'm a little bit leery of when it comes to signing this guy up to a long-term contract and having him play 81 games at Comerica Park. Now, I do think the Tigers could fix Javier Báez, or at least tweak his approach so he can adapt to his environment. I think if the Tigers can talk to Báez about adapting his approach, telling him he needs to be more of a gap-to-gap hitter, forget about the long ball, I think this will benefit Báez and the Tigers greatly in the long run. So that's one of the ways I believe the Tigers can try and influence Báez and, help him play better in his environment, which will now be Comerica Park. So those are sort of the factors I see playing out if the Tigers do in fact sign Báez. But I will say I would love to see Báez in an old English team. Alright, the third most likely team I see Javier Báez signing with during this offseason is the Houston Astros. Okay, so hear me out. Now, I think for Houston, Javier Báez should be their second choice if they cannot bring back Carlos Correa. Now, the reason why I say Báez should be their second choice over maybe a Story or a Seager is because, like Correa, he's a very good defender, okay? And a good hitter. But unlike Correa, I think Báez will demand significantly less money and less years. Also, if you think about it, if the Astros are honestly willing to do anything to keep Carlos Correa, give him the moon and the stars, they should be totally okay with just giving Báez the moon. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be difficult to go out and sign a guy like Báez if you're really willing to do anything to get Correa. I mean, am I wrong? So I think there's another positive going into the Astros' way when it comes to signing a guy like Báez. Another reason why I think Báez would do well in Houston is because I think his approach at the plate, unlike in Detroit, would work out just fine. Because if you think about it, Houston's left field plays much like the left field at Wrigley Field, right? I mean, it's very, very short. It's only 315 down the left field line at Minute Maid, which that is like high school short. Like, that is really short if you think about it. And some could argue that on a windy night at Wrigley Field, Chicago's left field also plays like a 315, even though in reality, it's 355 in Chicago. Plus, if you're like an Astros fan and they get a guy like Báez, then this would be a major indicator to me as an Astros fan that, they're committed to try and build a winning team long after the Dusty Baker years. Dusty Baker signed a 1-year contract, and if they sign a guy like Báez, they're not signing a 1-year deal. They got to at least sign him to a 4 or 5, plus year deal, So if you sign a guy, whether it's Correa, Baez, Story, Seager, any of the big name shortstop or pitchers, then you have to imagine they're still committed to building a winning culture in Houston, and they're not ready to fold and rebuild. That would be a positive thing if I'm an Astros fan. Those are my reasons why I think Baez could go to H-Town. Alright, so the second most likely team I see Baez signing with this offseason is the New York Mets. So when it comes to the Mets, I would have to say that probably unlike other teams, signing back Baez as a middle infielder, I think it would be their number one choice over Correa or Seager or Story. I really do. I think Baez is number one for the Metropolitans and when it comes to their priorities. But I will say, unlike other teams out there, I think the Mets view Baez as a second baseman because they already have a shortstop in, Frankie Lindor. So he's got to play second if he goes back to Queens. And also, I think, the Mets are just going to be that one team, and really the only team, who's going to throw more money at Baez than most people expect. I really do. I think they're going to go all out for Baez. And the reason why I think they're going to go hard at Baez versus anybody else out there on the market is because I really do think the Mets never really felt they got to see what a Lindor and Baez duo can really do defensively, especially in meaningful games. You know what I mean? Because, of course, as you guys know, Lindor was out for most of July, landing on the IL on the 17th because of an oblique injury, and he did not return until mid-August. Then, shortly thereafter, Baez, he landed on the 10-day IL, and that was on August the 13th. And this was just 2 weeks after he got traded to the Mets on July the 30th, the MLB trade deadline day. And Baez did not return to the Mets around the 24th of August. So they really never got to play a lot of games together defensively. Baez and Lindor, which I think the Mets really wanted to see, and that's why they got Baez at the deadline. So with that said, I think this motivates the Mets ownership and front office to re-sign Baez and see what can really happen defensively and offensively, with a really, really stellar duo up the middle with Lindor at short and Baez at second. And that's why I have them the second most likely team to sign Javier Báez. Alright. The number one most likely team I see Javier Báez landing with this offseason. Hayden, my friend, Mets Talk, you're not going to like me for this one. I'm sorry. It's the big bad Yankees. It is. I think Báez will most likely go to the Bronx. Now, with that said, okay, hear me out. This is interesting. I do not think Javier Báez is a Yankees' number one choice per se when it comes to acquiring, free agent shortstops. I really don't. This is because I really do think the Yankees' first priority is to go after guys like Correa and Story to man the shortstop position specifically before they even drop their line in the Báez pond. I really do. But the reason why I say that, the Yankees are the number one team to go hard after Javier Báez this offseason and actually get the guy is because I believe the Yankees, unlike other teams, provide more versatility for Báez on the defensive side of the ball. Because I think the Yankees should and will view Báez as a shortstop and second baseman, not just a shortstop like the Tigers would, or the Mariners would, or just a second baseman like the Mets would. I think the Yankees should view, and will view, if they're smart, Báez as both a shortstop and a second baseman, and hear me out. So, if the Yankees get greedy this offseason, which I think they will, I believe they could sign guys like Correa or Story to play shortstop. And then, after they get their shortstop, they sign Báez to play second base. And then, with Torres, you throw him in a trade to get another frontline starting pitcher during the offseason, okay? And I think this could actually work out pretty damn well for the Yankees. Now, this is one option I believe the Yankees have, with Báez joining their team. Now, I will admit this is probably the least likely of the two options, but here's the other option that probably makes a little more sense and is less creative and more conservative. I think, the Yankees, they could sign Baez, have him play short, have Torres play second, and you call it a day. And you roll the dice with that, and you see what happens during the season and going into opening day. I don't think that's terrible, but, I think the second option is more interesting and a little more intriguing for, I'd say, the average baseball fan and the Yankee fan, because you get rid of Torres, which is nice. You get Baez, and I'm telling you, you're going to get Story or Correa. Who wouldn't want that? But, maybe you go the conservative route. You get Baez, you put him at short, you put Torres at second, and you call it a day. Those are my top 5 teams I see Javier Báez potentially landing with this offseason. Like, comment, and subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on my top 5 destinations for Báez. Do you like them? Do you hate them? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Where do you think Javier Báez will land in free agency? And as always, I'll catch you guys later.